Welcome, everybody. It is Saturday, May 2nd, 2026, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's right. Every Saturday and Sunday, we do this live where we are having fun. Today, we're going to have a lot of fun because we are ultimately going to be going over The Rookie's opening scene, but I'm also going to try to go deeper into the pilot episode of The Rookie. It's a fantastic show, by the way. If you haven't seen it, the first 3 or 4 seasons are amazing. But I'm going to go down through the episode. I know it's a screenplay and this is a novel channel, but we are going to explore what I would call the narrative flow of it to understand how to look at your chapters, etc., etc. How to look at scenes, all right? Because even though in a screenplay the scenes are quite short and it's mostly dialogue with a little bit of action in it, the purpose of this exercise is to pay attention to setup, conflict, or challenging that setup, and resolving it, and seeing how one line, one movement, one thought can create a lot of character development. That's the whole point of this lesson. So let's get into it. And the cat's here to meow, meow, meow. By the way, one, what, two? She wants me to go upstairs. All right. Oh, hey, let's just say hello to everyone real quick. Welcome back, by the way. Welcome back to another live. We're going to get some fun with this. Flowers, always a pleasure. I just emailed you something. Please let me know that you got it. Hey, Ro, I responded to your email as well. Very fun music. All right. I do want to say we do have a poll that we will discuss at the end of the hour. It's a very fun poll this week. If you could have it today, what would help improve your writing craft the most? Regular feedback from other authors. Okay. More free time for focused practice. Taking classes, writing coach. Or taking time to analyze narratives. All right. We will talk about that as we get closer to the hour. Hey, Em, what's up? I'm on season 8. Ain't seen you in it yet. I know. I'm not in LA. They film in LA. I would love to be on that show. I would love to be on Suits, actually. But they don't do it anymore. Very fun. Thank you, Angel Faye. All right, let's get into it. Let's just rush into the reality of it. Yep, I danced on that pole. All right, so again, I know that this is about narratives and we talk about chapters and books and craft. I am utilizing this to help you understand the flow of narrative, how to take scenes and create beginning, middles, and ends. Now, also, I want to approach this in a sense, I'm going to go over it, but I'm also going to show you how what may look like 1 or 2 or even 3 scenes is really a chapter. And the whole point of this is to understand that you should be able to create plot, character, and world in a single line, in a single word, in a single moment, right? But also, what is making this work? And it's a good way to analyze our own narratives when we're working on a chapter, when we're working on our prose. And that's why I really do love studying film and television. It gives me a chance to watch narrative in motion, okay? You are welcome, my friend. All right, so again, The Rookie, this is the pilot episode. The show is very different now compared to the first couple seasons, but very good show. Alexi Holloway? I hope I said that right. All right. This is all stuff you don't really have to know about. We're not talking about screenwriting or how to basically write a script. But as you can see, everything we need to know is always on the top, and the reason you need to know is just makes it easier. All right. So again, this is a visual medium and not necessarily the written word in the sense of reading a book, where the reader also has part in the imagination and of the construction of the movements. How do you know when a chapter begins and when it ends? In other words, what is a chapter? This is a great question. I'm going to answer it for you now, but also know that this coming week, this Thursday, will be a video that solely breaks down what chapters are. So it's funny that, but how do you know when a chapter begins and when it ends? So the beginning of a chapter should set up context for a narrative beat directly connected to your macro. So if you look at your macro narrative, right, you need to break it up into chapters. Those chapters are handling a very specific narrative beat. You can add other little sub arcs and stuff like that in there, but the goal of a chapter is to move that macro narrative a fraction. It's supposed to be a stepping stone. So the beginning has to establish the context of whatever that fractal narrative beat must be. More importantly, remember that you want to start in motion. Not that you have to physically be running or a character is being shot at, but the emotional motion. You want to be moving in the emotional movement. As far as when the chapter ends, if you resolve the conflict that is created or the problem that is created within that chapter. So remember, all chapters need setup or context. They need a conflict or challenge that's set up, and they need a resolution. Now, that resolution needs to solve the problem that was created or create the potential to solve that problem in the next chapter or the next couple of chapters. So that's, in other words, what is a chapter? So ultimately, that's how you're supposed to look at a chapter. How do I set up the simple thing is, how do I set up the necessary information for the reader to understand the context of this narrative beat, which is a smaller fractal moment of the major? How do I challenge that information, and how do I resolve that information code? I really hope that helps. I've heard of the show but never saw it. It is a fun show. It's a drama / comedy, though it is on Disney app, but you could also get it on Hulu, I believe. It's weirdly addictive. Yes, like I don't want to watch the show anymore, like right? But like I want to know what happens. You know, absolutely. That's what we're here for. That's what I do these lives for. All right, let's get back to it. So the way I'm going to approach the breakdown is I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to just explain and talk about the things that are happening. I am not going to be focusing on how to write a screenplay, and I'm not going to be focusing on what makes a screenplay, etc., etc. However, if you want me to do that ever in the future, I am happy to also do screenwriting things, since I had many, many, many years in the screenwriting industry as an actual screenwriter. All right, so let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. All right. So picturesque, but not a tourist town, John Nolan, 43, sits in his pickup waiting for the bank to open. Voted most likely to succeed and best hair in high school. Nolan found the universe had other plans. Now he stares at his final divorce decree, wondering how he got here. Knocking on the car window breaks the moment. Stacy, 42, the bank manager, smiles with a genuine warmth. Going back to this question, Zach. So this is what it looks like starting in movement. We are in the movement of he has finalized his divorce and he is staring at his divorce papers, and there's an emotional movement. We are in the middle of something that is happening. More importantly, we are creating a vague but informative opening. There's enough information to understand what's happening, but not enough information that doesn't leave us without questions. We have plenty of questions in this situation. If this was an opening of a chapter, the descriptive element would focus on probably the car, the truck they're in. Is the heat on? Is it off? Is it an AC? Is it hot out? Are the windows up or down? It would start setting the atmosphere. The other thing is, you wouldn't necessarily most likely to succeed or best hair. That's used to describe a character's behavior and motivation. So it's who this character is inside. However, because of that, you might want to play with the character's hair. A hand goes through it in frustration, concern, but you would absolutely, without a doubt, show the final divorce decree. All right. So the context that would be set up in your scene, in your book for that chapter, is ultimately truck, atmosphere of the truck, how they are sitting within that truck. Then we allow some physical behavior. Character runs their hand through their hand. They maybe turn off the car, and then they hold the decree up. See? Vague but informative. We are slowly building on the context, and we slowly reveal what is going on. If it starts on the divorce papers, that's fine. That is a choice. But we are going all in on the information, and we're not allowing it to unfold. I've heard of it. I vote for some screenwriting. M, don't get me started. You know I will. Do you all want to know a secret? I totally answered the poll with what I thought Thomas would want. I don't want to disappoint. Ciao bella, ciao bella. That's funny. All right. So then we are only in that moment for a little bit. I bet you if we were writing that would probably be maybe 40 to 100 words. And then we keep it moving. Remember, in narratives, you want to keep it moving. Now, obviously, in a book, you could sit in beats longer. That's fine. You could sit in the emotional or the immersive experience. But in this situation, we're keeping it going because Stacy knocks on the car window. I thought you were the mistress, Emma. Oh, like Mistress Emma? That's funny. Hey, everybody. All right, so knocking on the window breaks the moment. Stacy, 42, the bank manager, smiles with genuine warmth. By the way, this is a shock break. Shock breaks are great, especially in dramatic moments, because it allows the reader to not have to be slowly drawn out of an emotional sit. In this case, John Nolan is sitting in the emotional development of his situation, his divorce, right? But Stacy is a new movement shocking him out of that. So in a narrative, in a book, it would literally be we just clarify the sound, or somebody knocks on the window, and he turns to her and he rolls down his window and Stacy goes, "Bank's open, John." Now that is the first scene in a chapter. That is not the whole chapter. So in this situation, we set up that's a quick opening scene to the chapter. That might be 150 words. Maybe if you want to play with immersion a little bit more, maybe 200 words. So basically a page. All right, then we switch to the second scene. This would be a hard chapter break. All right, and the reason we would do a hard chapter break is because we are inside the bank, okay? My second choice was what I think Thomas would want us to say. I kind of want to know what you... see, I know what I would say, but I'm actually interested in knowing what you think I would want to say. So I think more practice. Focused practice is what you think I would choose. I wonder if that's the two. Though, to be honest, I know what I would choose. But I don't want to influence it. All right, so now we are the hard chapter break, which is those 3 asterisks or a line or whatever you want to use. All right, Nolan and Stacy walk. There's history here, an angsty tween romance, a strong friendship. Yep, see, I knew it. Practice, practice, practice. I do believe in practice, though. All right, so happy divorce day. That's not a thing. It should be. When mine went through, I took the boys to Disneyland. Try to look at this as an opportunity. Right now, I'm just trying to remember to wear pants. I thought I'd be relieved. Sarah and I agreed to stay together until Henry went to college. I knew this was coming for 2 years. Why do I feel so sad? This is a quick, nice scene. By the way, this next scene is going to be a soft chapter break because we are still in the bank and we are just moving from the inside of the main bank into the deposit box. But let's talk about this real quick and why it's so good. Now, you might like the show or not like the show, but why is this good? First off, remember we set up the first scene with divorce papers. But what did we just do? Stacy knows they are getting divorced. She didn't look at the papers, right? So we have to seed this, that there's history there, that they have a strong friendship. And the way you seed that is she's privy to information that you normally wouldn't have. But Nolan doesn't have to say, the divorce is final. No, allows Stacy to have that subtext of the relationship. Great. We know they know each other, so much so that either she was there through the process or they had this conversation. That is good, strong writing in one line that carries so much information in one line. Even though to the reader, it passes by. It's subconscious. That's what's known as invisible writing. When you don't have to think about it, or it doesn't distract you or detract you from what you are absorbing informationally. So that's a good, strong, invisible line. That's not a thing. That is one line, and it's character. It's pure character. Excellent. It should be. When mine went through, we are learning a little bit about Stacy, even though, spoiler alert, we never see Stacy again. We are learning a little bit about Stacy. When mine went through, I took the boys to Disneyland. This is so good. This is so good. Why? It's seeding LA. It's seeding California. Remember, Disney World is in Orlando. That's why it's World. O, right? O, Orlando. Disneyland, LA, is in Anaheim. It's seeding in character. This is character exposition because not only are we filtering the experience through the two, but it's there. Try to look at this as an opportunity. Oh, so good. LA, Disney, LA, look at it as an opportunity to take a chance and change. Very strong beat. I second guessed what Thomas would pick. Then I thought, nah, that's what he wants me to think he'd guess. So I shut my eyes and went for a lucky dip. That is actually the correct answer. That's the accurate answer. All right. Please, again, if you have questions about what I am talking about or what I am seeing, or even if you're interested in this or not, let me know in the comments, please. As we get. Oh, and remember to like the video. You gotta bloop the beard and bloop that like button. All right, let's keep it going. Nolan responds with, right now, I'm just trying to remember to wear pants. That's an emotional foundation where they are internally, but that is subtext. I'm not doing well right now. I don't know what's up and I don't know what's down. And that's a great line. That's a good, strong line. I thought I'd be relieved. Oh, that's a position. We are developing a position. Okay, Sarah and I agreed to stay together until Henry went to college. That's also a position, but that position was challenged off page, and now we realize, but it also says, A, he was married. Good. They have a child, Henry, which is important for like maybe the first 3 seasons, and then it doesn't matter. And his son is a certain age, because he is going to college. All right. I know this was coming for 2 years. Why do I feel so sad? Oh, this is excellent. This is character, history. This is development. Coming for 2 years. We understand that he's been sitting in this sort of life, and boom, it's right there. Excellent writing. And look at this. This is a short scene. If you were writing this as a scene in your book, remember the first scene would have maybe been 250 words, right? Just a page. This also probably would have been half a page. You would have described them walking through the bank, maybe listening to a couple of cashiers getting ready, as in like, opening drawers and shutting drawers to create atmosphere. Maybe you would describe the sound of their shoes on the floor, whatever the case is, all right? You probably infer the time of day, which is morning. All right, but more importantly, you would keep the dialogue going and add a little bit of behavior. I would definitely add a little bit of behavior. But this is a quick back and forth. And that's the thing about dialogue. All right? That's why I love studying screenplays. Dialogue needs to be to the point. You never want to meander with dialogue, even though I've heard it hundreds of times in the industry, especially from newer writers. They think dialogue is a choice, an opportunity to show character. And they'll just be like, oh, I have them just saying random, like, pies are fun. And they're like, all right, we're talking about robbing a bank. And they're like, yeah, but I was thinking about eating pie. There's nothing wrong with that, but that line needs to do something. It needs to move the narrative forward, even if it is character development. Yeah, pie, I was thinking of pie. Well, how does that relate to something bigger? Maybe it's a setup for something later. Maybe it's a payoff when they do rob a place and they're eating pie. I found this pie. Now we can justify us having it put there. But as you can see, everything, good point. Everything is directly moving. Happy divorce day. We know this is it. This was the day. They know each other. There's history. That's not a thing. Character development. That would be, I like pie. But it is a direct cause and response. It's a literally, she said something, he's responding to it. He's not doing an aside. She's not saying happy divorce day, and then Nolan is going, I really could go for some pie right now. No, you want to go back and forth. You want to get to the jokes if you're going to have jokes. It should be, again, that's a quip. Character, personality, relationship. When mine went through, I took the boys to Disneyland. We are showing that she can relate to them, that she had a divorce, and she has kids as well. So we are defining their ages too, by the way. That's something I should note. They're easily in their late 30s, early 40s to mid 40s. If he's 18 and they got married when they were in their 20s, let's say it would be 38. So he might be 38-ish, or maybe they had kids later. The point is, we know they're mid-age. Good stuff. Disneyland seeds where we're going to go, and it connects it directly to opportunity, which should change your life. So this is a very good, tight scene. All right, again, this is a soft chapter break. You would just do a space. You wouldn't do the asterisk or a line. Let me see. This is another good short line. This is still chapter 1. So we are on the 3rd scene. Okay? Because why do I feel so sick? By the way, this is something we make fun of in television. They're talking in the movement in a bank, and then they cut to the vault. So basically, Nolan, like in time, it would look like this. Nolan goes, "Why do I feel so sad?" They continue walking. They continue walking. They continue walking. She opens up the door. She gets them in there. She grabs the the safe deposit box, puts it on the table, and goes, "Because you loved her." Films do that all the time, but the reason they do that is because they want to just keep it moving. But I always find that funny too. All right, because you loved her, but she's gone and you need to move on. Excellent. So what have you always wanted to do? Chippendales or the NFL? All right. I'm trying to help you, John. Gently. Okay. I know, but I'm just lost. I bought a self-help book. Made the cashier put it in a brown bag. I can't bring myself to open it. Brown bag, great. It's like buying porn. Very funny joke. Very good joke. What do you mean, Thomas? When a person says something to you is always the best place to bring up an entirely different... Absolutely, Ro. Absolutely. Now, to be fair, in real life, of course we're going to do that. I say random things. Some of my bestest friends say random things. It's who we are. But in a narrative, you're trying to earn the word count. So every aside is costing you your word count that could go towards doing more valuable stuff. That's why, I'll go back to this real quick. That's why this little beat is so strong. That's not a thing. It should be. When mine went through, those two quips, those two quick jokes, right? Even Happy Divorce Day is technically a joke, but it is doing work. Is a lead-in. It should be. When mine went through, okay? So you always want to keep things going. Anyway, where are we? I know, but I'm lost. I bought a self-help book. The healthier question is, who do you want to be? I'll let you know when I figure it out. Boom. Okay, so we're on page 2, but in a book, this would also be page 2, because you have 250 words for the first scene, then half that for the second scene, and now this is a quick scene too, but by the end of the second page, let's say the beginning of the third page, just to keep it broad enough, we already know John Nolan's, if you were writing a book in prose, we would already know John Nolan's emotional state. We would know his question, his what am I going to do, his dilemma, his problem, right? And this season, or the book, would explore that problem. What am I going to do? Okay? It's not the inciting incident, though. But we are setting up, what am I going to do? We understand a little bit about a history. We understand his character. We understand his world. And we understand the plot. In your book, by page 3, the start of page 3, we should at least understand some of that. Doesn't mean we have to know all of it, because you can explore that question for the rest of the book if you want, but you still have to set the foundation of it. And that's why it's really great reading screenplays, because you could see how to do it quickly, but at the same time, when you're writing, you know you have prose, so you get to expand and you go, oh. Hey, Diana. All right. So again, this is a short. I would say this scene would probably be 300 words, maybe 350 words. But I like this little beat. She offers the only comfort she has, a hug, fantastic friend beat, and then she leaves, leaving Nolan to sit by himself in the emotions of what they just discussed. He puts the divorce decree in the box, looks at his wedding ring. It's been on for 20 years. Now that would be in the prose. This would be something where he maybe is thinking this. He's like, maybe describing the ring and the line that's on it as he takes it off. And there's a line, a 20-year mark left on his finger. He struggles to get it free, puts it in the box. The last look, then shuts it forever. So strong, so good. Hey, what's up, Afghani? All right. It's a strong opener, and in writing, if you're writing a book, again, you're not even to the mid of page 3, and all of this is already taking place. This is so good. All right, now we're still in chapter 1, okay, and we're doing a hard chapter break. Now, I will say this. For me, I actually would end it at he shuts the security box. That's a short opening first chapter. That might be, in total, 3 pages. You could probably extend it to 4 pages. I would like to have that be its own contained chapter. And again, the reason is I like to maintain a chapter per plot point for the central conflict, but you don't have to. You can literally unfold a plot point or a narrative beat within a single sentence, a single beat, a single chapter, a single scene. You could do whatever you want. The reason I would do that is because this closes the emotional beat of the first chapter, and we are still in the ordinary world. Then I would do a chapter 2 because I know this is the inciting incident. Nolan heads, so there's a new chapter, so we're in chapter 2. Nolan heads for the exit, lost in thought. 2 cruel men enter. Those bastards. Nolan frowns, sensing danger as they pull their guns. Why is this important? We are showing that he has a natural instinct for this. It's showing character. Now, in narrative, this would probably move through prose in what he senses and how he senses it. Maybe he's it's the way they're moving. Maybe it's he was going to leave, but something held him back. Maybe it's he turned around, or maybe he couldn't open the door all the way, as if danger was holding him in, right? And then he turns around and you see the guns. By the way, this is another quick scene. Look how strong that opening is. Again, that opening, you can't see me when I do that. This opening might be maybe 100 words, because we are showing Nolan, by the way, again, in movement. So there was a really great question earlier by, I'm sorry, I can't find this. Oh, Zach was saying, how does a chapter begin? So if this is chapter 2, we are in a movement. This one, unlike the first chapter, where it was an emotional movement, we are on a physical movement that is also attached to an emotional movement because he has a feeling. But it's in the middle of something happening. Nolan is leaving the bank while somebody is coming in, or somebody's are coming in the bank to start some trouble. Pistol. That's fine. Everyone on the floor! The first dialogue is active and gets the scene really going. Very strong first dialogue line. Excellent. Pistol... I like that they call the character Pistol. Pistol whips the guard down as shotgun fires into the air. Excellent. We are keeping the action up and the movement going. Get down! Get down! The dialogue is, again, active. It's keeping it all moving. He herds customers toward the counter, shoves Nolan to the floor as Shotgun, that's the other character, throws a bag at the teller. Fantastic. In a book, this would probably be 200 words ish because a lot of the action. Uh, Maybe 250, depending on how deep you go with the immersion. But honestly, you would want to keep the pace. You would want the least amount of information to inform the context. All right. Fill it. Hurry. Who's the bank manager? Excellent. Just so you know, this means they're talking at the same time. Stacy raises her hand. She's the bank manager. Now, this is why we needed to meet Stacy, so she has stakes. Or more importantly, we, the reader, have stakes in her. We like her. She likes our protagonist. She has a relationship with the protagonist. She was helpful for the protagonist. She wants to see the protagonist doing well. We want this person to live. And now she is in danger and she has importance. So that's good. Nolan raises, hey, agency. Oh, yes. One line, raise as he rises. This is fantastic. Character has agency. And that agency is important to show who this character is. So far, fantastic. Now the gun is pointed at Nolan. Ooh, stakes. Get back down. No. Are you okay? Says to Stacy. That again is telling you who John Nolan is. He is in the direct sight of danger, and he is choosing to ignore the command to make sure his friend is okay. Empathy. She nods. Oh, we got more. Not familiar with this movie. It's actually a TV show, Afghani. It's called The Rookie, and this is the pilot episode. Very, very good. I like the first 3 seasons. No notes. Season 4 and 5 are like, all right. You know, they're interesting. It's on like season 9 or something like that now, but very good first 3 seasons. Excellent writing. All right, we continue. Do you want to die? And Nolan's like, no. All right, he sinks down, helped by the gun. Then he sees Stacy reaching for the silent alarm button hidden under the desk. Pistol turns, about to catch her. But Nolan puts himself directly in danger to give Stacy a chance to hit that button. He rises, driven by instinct. Oh, so good, so good, so good. Honestly, have I even really lived? Pistol comes back for him. Nolan steals himself. Steals, like, you know, hey. I mean, life is something that's always happened to me. I met a girl. I fell in love. The stick turned blue. So I dropped out of college, got a job, never thought about what could have been. Never pushed to be anything but reasonable. Never thought I had a choice. All right, so this is great. This is him working through his problem, right? He's explaining his life. We learn his history quick. I met a girl. I fell in love. The stick turned blue without saying she got pregnant. This is a fantastic movement of dialogue. So I dropped out of college, get a job, never thought about what could have been. That's so good. Never pushed to be anything but responsible. This is actually important for who he is as a character. Never thought I had a choice. And that's what's really great about this. He's been making choices this whole time. Since he put the ring in the box and closed the security box, he has been making choices. He chose not to leave the bank. He chose to speak up. He chose to make sure his friend was okay. He chose to interfere so she could hit the button. He chose to do this. All good stuff. It pours out of him the clarity he's been described desperate for, sharing it with a bank full of hostages. He's actually working through his. That's such an interesting emotional choice. He's finally talking about his feelings, but he's talking to the bank robber who's going to kill him. This bank robbery's the most exciting thing that's happened to me in years. Is that sad? It sounds sad. Pistol hits him. Yeah, get up again, and I'll kill you. Oh, stakes have been raised. Through the door, Nolan sees 2 cops, male and female, sneaking up. If Nolan gets up again, Pistol will kill him. If he doesn't, and Pistol sees the cops, others might die. Again, agency. In a narrative, this would be worked through in either free indirect discourse or internal thoughts. If it's first person, it'd be a different thing. But it would be worked through in the narrative. It would be narratively important to be like, if I stay, I got to do something. You know, if I just stay here, people die. So Nolan forces himself to rise again, the fighter who won't stay down. I love it. SB. All right. Not that you're in a position to judge. Clearly, your life hasn't turned out how you wanted it, unless you wanted to be bank robbers, in which case you're living the dream. But what's my dream? This is so good. Didn't follow the stick turned blue line. I thought it got something to do with being a cop and rank. I'm such a yeah, but he's not a cop yet. You know, he's just a carpenter. You know. Anyway, all right. Pistols raises the gun. Nolan closes his eye. Blam! Pistol falls. Wounded. Nolan's eyes open to see his saviors charging into the bank. The saviors in this case are the cops. Very important. Police drop the gun. Shotgun chooses life, dropping his gun. Cops take him down. Nolan's legs give out. He collapses near Stacy. So good. That you were really stupid? Brave. So good. More cops flood the bank. Nolan watches them mesmerize. All right, so this is actually going to start in film. This is they're speaking over the footage. In a book, this would technically just stop the second chapter. So we're already at the inciting incident within 7 pages. Actually, I think it's less than that. One second. Because this is one. This page doesn't count. This page doesn't count. This page doesn't count. So there are what is that, 3? Got to take 3. So this is page 1. Page 1, page 2. So in 2 pages, not even a page and a half, right? A page and 3/8 actually. Page and 3/8. We're already done with chapter 1, and then we have, what is this? Another 2 pages. Was it 2.5 pages? We're done with chapter 2 and the inciting incident. Very good, very good, very quick. Excellent stuff. And then this would be plot point 3. Actually, technically, let's talk about this real quick. So the inciting incident is technically get on the floor. They drop the guns. They drop the guns. They drop the guns. She nods. All right, pistols. Okay, you want to die? All right, all right, pistols charge. Charges Nolan, gun pointed. You want to die? He sinks down. This is still the inciting incident. And then he rises. This is actually technically plot point 3. This is the fallout, the direct response to that. He is taking action. All right, he's interacting with it. So that's interesting. What do we got here? Oh, you should do an analysis of an anime story. Hey, you send me a story to do, and I'll do it. All right. So, being in New York, this would be chapter 3. Being in LA, I mean, this would be chapter 3. All right. And this would be considered plot point 4, which is ultimately the reflection of, or the long term, what is to happen. You know, what is this thing? But this is the interesting part about this book, this story, and if you made it a book, we don't necessarily need to see him training. We just need to know that those cops, and now he's in LA, and we're ultimately creating what I would call narrative movement, right? But here's the thing. Here is the thing. If you were writing this as a book, you technically could get away with what we just saw and make it those 2 chapters into 1 chapter and turn it into a prologue. You could do that. And then this would be chapter 1, setting the ordinary world of John's life. You could do it a couple of different ways. Remember that. However, because I know the story, I know the season and everything, it would be better off to do what we just did, where it's chapter 1 is in the truck, chapter 2 is the guns. It will also include the 3rd plot point, and now we're in chapter 3, and he's in LA. Now, what's nice about this is now you could use what happened, how was the boot camp, how was the training, what happened between Pennsylvania, and going to LA. So all that is on the table now. That is vague but informative. We know he saw the cops. He knows he was mesmerized by the cops. So we know he made a choice in his head and ultimately he came to LA. So we understand that informative element, but it's vague enough where we still have questions. And those questions are explored over the course not only of this episode, but also this season. All right, let's keep it going. By the way, this is a fantastic character. Captain Zoe. All right, 41. Oh, wait. 1 second. Don't they say he's 45? Oh, 43. John Nolan's 43. But we don't know he's 43 on the page, right? So that 43 is shown through their discourse, their conversations. That's what showing looks like. Anyway, all right, where are we? All right, stands at the podium, confident and charming, but they're still underneath. Now, in a book, you wouldn't necessarily write what we call shots. Okay, you wouldn't, because she is speaking over everything. She's a voiceover, and we're just cutting through different shots. We're cutting, we have the graduates face her, dressed in blue. We find Nolan, the oldest by a decade. His hair is shorter now. It's 9 months later. Okay, and then she's still talking, and in Nolan's office is a subtle fist bump to the rookies next to him. So that's one quick scene, and then it cuts to other people. It's like, what is this? Time cut to 3 rookies accepting their flunk. You wouldn't necessarily write that in a book, but in film you get to play with time differently, just because it's easier to write and it's easier for it to filter through the viewer's mind. So in a reader's mind, it's a little, you can do it. It's just a little bit more work. But 9 more. Let's see. Ideas that move on. This is just setting the tone. So this is good and important. Blues, move past the young faces. This is nice. This is just juxtaposition. We are seeing Nolan, who's older by decades, next to people who are younger. That sets the tone of what we're going to see by showing us. I don't remember it saying 9 months later, but you could. The chapter could be called 9 months later, different paths brought you here, but you are the best and the brightest. This is still just context and atmosphere. Nolan offers a subtle fish bump to the rookies next to him. So this establishes relationship before we get into it, and this shows it. So because they have camaraderie and he's doing the fist bumps, yada, 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 we understand that they have a relationship before they talk. And again, remember, when you're writing, you're supposed to be able to do a lot with a little. So a sentence, a line of dialogue, whatever it is. The fist bump here and there is probably a sentence. You know what I'm saying? And it's saying so much. And that is something I feel happens when newer writers or just writers in general, even I do it occasionally, and it's something you have to work. I shouldn't say occasionally. Zero drafts look like that, where we write a lot. Remember, zero drafts start off dirty and filthy, and then the first draft we start cleaning it up a little bit more, and we just continuously rewrite, because great writing is rewriting. So one of the things you have to pay attention to in the later drafts when you're doing the work is, am I saying more than needs to be said? Or am I saying anything of note? Like, how is this helping the plot, character, or world building? How is this moving the central conflict forward and or a character arc forward? Like, there's questions you need to be answering yourself so you don't waste time, waste your word count. On that note, is Tetsuno an antagonist or protagonist in addition to... I don't know. I don't know that particular anime very well, so I can't answer that question. But Afghani might be able to answer. I know Afghani likes the stuff. All right. By the way, if you're watching and you're just jumping in, you don't know what's going on, I'm basically we're working on the rookies' first episode and we're breaking it down. There's also a poll. We're going to discuss it at the end of the hour. We got 15 minutes. If you could have it today, what would help improve your writing craft the most? We got regular feedback from other authors. We got a 3-way tie. More free time for focused practice, taking classes or writing coach, and of course, taking time to analyze the narrative. Additionally, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit that bell icon. All right, let's keep it going. I haven't watched that one. Me either. I've heard of Akira, and I think I've seen some, but I don't watch it. It's been like 15 years since I've sat down and watched like a lot of anime. And you enter your career at the peak of mental. All right, this is a great line because this is setting the reality. This is the contrast. She's talking to the cadets. You are entering your career at the peak of mental and physical fitness. But remember, John Nolan is decades older than them, because if he's 43 and they're in their 20 years younger, all right. So it's a nice set of contrast. I think my writing is influenced a lot by anime. I mean, your prose, because again, I've read some of your stuff, and just for anyone out there, Afghani's link is in the description. He writes sci-fi books. Your prose are not very anime, but I can understand what you're saying, like the unfolding of it, like the movement of what you're trying to say. But your writing is very tight. I put time as in actual applying myself. I put time as in, you gotta apply yourself. Let's give you a little applause for that. I like it. Self-conscious Nolan. Oh, see, there it is. So he tries to stand up a little taller because he's like, yeah, physical. That's a good beat. Make no mistake, you will be tested. Great. Time cut to our 3 rookies accepting their diplomas. You will see things no one should have seen. This is setting expectations. Do things a person should never be asked to do. Stakes. All right, but that is the commitment you have made to our great city, and I know you'll make us proud. Nolan looks down at his diploma. He did it! All right. An iconic villain, Nolan looks up at his new home. Hey, man. The opening is really what I wanted to pay attention to. Did you... Oh, I'm talking about more plot. Yeah, that's I kind of worked at it. Did I hear you say you listen to audiobooks for entertainment? Do you analyze while listening without trying? I was watching a movie trying to follow its narrative movement. I was surprised I could. Yeah, so if I'm reading, I will just read the book. I'll just enjoy it. And then when I'm done with the book, if there's definitely things that stand out, I'll mark it. Not in the book. I use, I don't write in my books. But if I'm listening to an audiobook, it's easier to analyze it in real time. It's like I'm watching a movie or a movie or a TV show, because the way my brain works is when I'm reading, it has a different analytical element to it. When I'm listening or watching, it's definitely a better experience. So yeah, that's awesome that you were able to do that. It is a skill that you have to develop, and I recommend developing it as writers just in general. If nothing else, screenwriting helps with characters. Oh yeah. To be succinct. Yeah, but in a book, you don't, in a book, you do not have to be like Blaze walked in, a 30-year-old sketchy as F on the sidewalk. Like, you don't have to write it like that. You don't have to write John Nolan, 6'1", 43-year-old man, holding his divorce, but you don't have to do that. But if his hair is nice still and he's 43, you might mention his hair. You know what I'm saying? Description has to move through purpose. It has to fulfill the plot, narrative, or world building. Each sentence literally connected to the last somehow. It was crazy. Yeah, that's what makes... If a book is making a lot of money and selling, it's usually because the reading is easy, even if it has depth. Literature is a little bit more complex in the sense that, like, the prose are part of the experience, whereas like market writing or invisible writing, like a Brandon Sanderson is invisible writing. Sarah J. Maas, who's the lady who did the Hunger Games, whatever. The author who did Susan for Hunger Games. They write what's known as invisible prose. Either way, if it's going to be the literary is just the style. Like, literature is just the style. Those two should still be easy reads, and they are. They give you enough information to know what's going on, and it's vague but informative. It leaves you with questions. That's why the opening, to whether you like Hunger Games or not, that opening page is literally Katniss waking up. I know it's funny that she's waking up. They say don't do wake ups. But Katniss is waking up in her bed. She feels over, and her sister is not on her bed. Instantly, we know that they sleep in the same bed. Okay? Then she looks over and she sees her mother with her sister in the bed across from them. Clearly, they're in the same room, which means we are inferring that there's a chance they are poor. Then we see a cat that is horrible looking. It's the cabin, right? And before we even get to the end of page 1, she says, today is like any other day, except today is the day of the reaping. We don't know, anyone who's never read that book or seen the movie, we don't know what the reaping is, but we have enough context to set up the informative part. But it's vague enough where we have questions. But even before page 1 is done, we already are in the movement. Who is she looking for? Why is her sister gone? Why would her sister be in the bed? Oh, why is the mother's bed across from her bed and her sister's? Oh, and they have a sick cat. Okay, so maybe they're poor. All right, I got a little bit of information where I'm putting the things together. And then she mentions the reaping. What is the reaping? Why is the reaping? Okay. Ooh, more questions. The protagonist drives the story either by action or being acted upon. And by the way, action doesn't have to be physical. Action could be emotional, mental, or spiritual as well. Action just means movement. But yes, great sentence. Of the two main characters, oh, you're talking and the story goes on if you remove, the story disappears if you remove Tosu. You've seen the anime. Excellent. Thank you, Zach. Even though I can't even say these names, Kanata gets the last line. The rules were written after Hunger Games. The rule was, you know what? That's probably true. Tom is again bringing up the ugly Hunger cat. When I'm teaching the class at the library, I make fun of the cat all the time. I also make fun of Pizza. I go, how does anyone fall in love with a guy who looks like a tree? Because that's how he survived. I get that tea. I meant it to say it shows you don't need a page. Oh yeah, of character traits, descriptions. You are trying to do the. Yeah. I'm starving now, roll. Okay, let's keep it going a little bit. I want to get to a scene. All right. So let's get here. Lucy, strong arms. Ugh. Blaze up to the surprise desk caps. Officer Chan reporting for duty. I love Rookie Day. One line. First time we meet Tim is character development. He is stating a position. But more importantly, I love Rookie Day is putting him into a very specific situation for the reader, or in this case, the viewer's eyes. In one line, I told you, when you're writing, one line should be able to do a lot of work. Now, obviously, we want to build on that one line. But what I'm saying is, when I was working, when I was a I had writer, and I had a group of writers. One of the writers said to me, I said, let's do, I want to see where you're all at writing wise. So I want you to all write a monologue, but I want the monologue to be a moving scene. I want the monologue to be a minimum of 5 pages to 10 pages. One of the writers came back, and it took 3 pages for us to start seeing who this character was. And their pushback to me was, well, you didn't give us enough pages to really explore the character. So I had to do what I can in those first 3 pages to get there. And I says, no, the first line, even before they talk, if it's physical behavior, if it's a dialogue for verbal, if it's mental behavior, we should be able to start understanding who a character is. 10 pages is a lot of pages. 3 pages is way too many pages to start showing who your character is. In a novel, same thing. If we don't start seeing, you don't need to have a full thesis of the character and a full breakdown. But if we don't start seeing who a character is, if we don't start seeing what the plot is about, if we don't start feeling the world that's lived in, you have to just go back and do the work. You have to start adding plot, character, and world building. You just do. Did you let him go? It was a woman. I like to diversify my writing staff, so I had men and women of all areas. I did not. So the idea is for that exercise was to see where they were. So because I like mentoring, I'm a mentor, So when I work with people, I bring on younger people and older people, veterans, and then I would sort of work them. And seeing where she was talent wise, I knew that I had to place her with certain writers and I had to look for certain things, but I was going to purposefully, and I did, give her exercises that would also move our stories forward, right? Because we were a production company, ultimately writing shorts and doing all these other things to sort of build the reputation and stuff like that. But more importantly, that was an exercise to see where they were so I can mentor them and help, teach them. All right. Let's keep Tim Bradford, 38, stands with several vets. Tim's a P3, okay? It's Christmas and the Purge in one. That's a funny line. This is character again, okay? But we're also learning, we're building on his position of I love Rookie Day. It's Christmas and the Purge in one. Why? It's setting the stakes. In the first episode, we learn that a rookie can be fired like that if they get their pink sheet or blue sheet. I think it's a blue sheet. If they get their blue sheet, they could be out. If they get more than one blue sheet, they could be out, right? But Tim is like, I want to get rid of the bad ones. It's setting Tim's position. He's here to train the best, to be the best, for the best. So if you can't handle it, you're out, okay? But Christmas is, he's like, oh, this is a great opportunity. These are presents. These are gifts for potential. I want to bring in good cops, and I'm going to train cops to be the best. All very good. Whip them into... I did. Yeah. Did you get tips from Emma? I did not know Emma back then. I've only known Emma a couple of years now. Good day. Hey, what's up, Sean? Good day, everyone. Busy with some things today, but wanted to hop on and say hello and listen for a while. I appreciate that, Sean, and I appreciate you giving us your time. You know that. Let me give you some loving with some nice applause. Where's our applauser? And there's my first present. Excellent. Excellent. Morning, Boot. Good morning, sir. Did I say you could talk? You better pray I'm not your training officer, Boot, because I'll make your life a living hell. Excellent. This is some good stuff here. We see who Tim is as a training officer. We learn that he is a training officer. We get Boot in there some more times. We learn that Jackson is a new recruit. He's a rookie. They call him Boots. All right, we are establishing world and terminology. Because I'll make your life a living hell. We are to who the character is. We're learning who he is. This is a great, funny little twist on play. The reason is because, sir, I'd be thrilled to have you as a TO. My father raised me to push myself to the edge of my abilities, and he'd be deeply disappointed if I failed to do so now that I've joined him in service. Your father is? This is great. Commander West of Internal Affairs, yes, sir. Tim's like, roll call on 10. He just leaves him. It's a funny beat. But we learn who Jackson is. We learn that Jackson is a generational cop. Some of the funniest stuff. A guy was drinking water and a girl tells him it's the master's water. And the guy says, worried, the master's water? What do you mean the master's water? He thought it was urine. That's funny. You really going to do me like that? He heads for the door. You really gonna do me like that? All right, that's Lopez. Lopez is a fun character in the first couple seasons. So this really establishes the other characters, the support team. Though to be honest, Tim and Lopez are very much not support team anymore in the show in like season 9. But we learn who Tim is very fast. We learn who Jackson is and a little bit about him, and we learn who Lucy is, and we learn a little bit about her. Officer Chan reporting for duty. He's ready to go. All right, so these are all good scenes. We're about to finish the hour. But the big thing I wanted to really get from this is as you're writing your novel, okay, I know we're using a screenplay, but as you're writing your novel, remember, Dialogue needs to work for you. It needs to establish plot, character, and world building. It needs to show who these characters are and their concerns without directly stating things. Though you can still state things. Don't get me wrong. You can have somebody say, I'm very aggravated, or I'm upset at you, or, if we don't get out of here in 15 minutes, we're going to be late. You can have people say things directly. The goal is to mix it up. You want some subtext and some text. You want straightforward. Now, more importantly, do you see how quick these scenes move? Now, yes, if we were to put them into a chapter, the prose would extend it a little bit more. Like I said, that opening scene would be about 250 words, which is about 1 page. The next part of that opening scene would be another 100 or so. And then when they get to the security, the deposit box, it's another 250, 300 words. That's a chapter. Done. All right? You don't need a lot. You do not need a lot. Now, and your chapters are ballooning up, as long as they are complete chapters and doing the work of a chapter, then it earns its spot. But sometimes what we learn is that there's a lot of extra stuff or fluff that's being thrown in there. So the way to get around that is your first run through, your zero draft, should just get the information out. Get the plot out. If you want to put some story stuff in there, the story is, just for anyone who's new here, narrative is made up of both plot and story. Plot is what needs to happen no matter what, and story is how the plot unfolds through the emotional experiences and choices of your characters. The reason we start out with plot in the zero draft is so we can get the details out. We want to know, we want the context so we understand what's going on. We want to challenge that context, and then we want to resolve it forward, or at least establish the potential for solution moving forward. In your first draft, now go back and start adding story. Have characters push back on each other. Have characters resist saying certain things. Have situations build on it. Expand maybe the conflict a little bit. Add a little immersion. Add a little internal immersion. These are things that are important on the first draft, but in reality, by the time you get to your second draft, that's where you're really adding the stuff that was missing in your zero and first because you took your notes. You had your alpha readers read through it. And now in your second draft, you're really adding that extra stuff. But again, to be fair, if you understand your chapter in the minimalist way, the zero draft, just the plot, it allows you to make sure that the information that's needed, no matter what, is absolutely on the page and making sense. Even if you write the zero draft in text and not subtext. Even if you have characters saying, I am mad at you. Because that allows you in the first draft and your second draft to say, I am mad at you, to turn that into movement and behavior. And now play with back and forth. Another thing that I notice as a developmental editor when I work with authors is they'll write these long monologues or these long chunks of dialogue or these long descriptions. That's great in a zero draft because it gives you fuel, because then you could take a chunk of monologue, a chunk of dialogue, and break it up and allow a call and response. You could allow other characters to have opinions, pushbacks, positions. You could have them agree and some disagree. You could have contradictions. And that same chunk of dialogue becomes interesting now. It creates movement. It allows the scene to flow, and that's okay. A thicker chapter is not a bad thing. Do not allow others to make you feel like a 3,000 word or even... Listen, there are Lord of the Rings chapters that are 40 pages long. Not that you should be writing 40-page chapters, but I'm saying if it's merited, if it's earned, if everything is making sense and there's no slop, then you could take those earned moments and just expand on them. The expansion should do something. It should allow characters to reveal their positions. It should allow the plot to make more sense, and it should allow the world to build around them. Because another thing that I see missing in chapters is the environment. The environment goes cold. They might describe the environment in the beginning, and then it's just dialogue, and maybe some movement. But you want to keep the environment alive. That's a first and second draft tool. So there you go. All right. I hope this helped. I had a lot of fun with this. What do we got? Oh, my mom loves the show. Yeah, Rookie is fun. It is a very fun show. John Nolan doesn't seem to be in the show as much anymore. And let's be honest, Bailey, get her out of the show. All right. All right. I'm gonna read the poll again. I'm gonna give a little bit for everybody to vote, and then I'm gonna go through my spiel, and then we'll get to it. If you could have it today, what would help improve your writing craft the most? We have regular feedback from other authors. Excellent. Critique group. More free time for focused practice. Hey. Taking classes or hiring a writing coach. And of course, taking time to analyze narrative. We have 12 votes currently. So that means some of us didn't vote. Feel free to vote. No answer is correct. It's all opinions. No one's going to be judged. I'm heading off to bed and putting my daughter for the night. Hey, Angel Faye, have a great night. Thank you so much for spending and staying and hanging out. Always fun to see you here. Good night, Angel. All right, well, that's going. Let me do my little spiel. Remember that I have books available. MakeItRightLeftHere.com. You can check it out. I have a book on 27 plot point outline. However, for pantsers out there, the first half of the book is just the study on narrative. It explains and explores what a narrative is and how to use it and think about it while you are writing at the seat of your pants. But also the second half of the book is a deep dive into outlining, and it shows you a breakdown and explores the process of outlining in itself. If you didn't know, I have a Death of a King. Death of a King is an epic fantasy novel. You can currently read this book on Patreon and or Substack. Either way, you're going to see the breakdown of the book. It is not the polished version chapters, but I am releasing a chapter a week. And I ultimately show you the zero draft, the first draft, and the third draft. And then I also show you my short form outlines and my extended outlines. I give detailed information on my choices, and I break it down so you can utilize that information for your own writing. If you didn't know, Foundation for Longevity is a book on success for writers and other people in the entertainment industry. I have this book currently available on MakeItRightLeftHere.com. The second book is about to be prepared. I am intending on getting this book out by June. I do also want to make a quick mention. The soft cover book version of this and the ebook, I'm going to try to get that out June, July, August, maybe August, because I definitely want to get this book done and up by June, July. So once those are up, I will start working on getting that other thing done. Remember, this is not the cover, it's just a holding place, but Altar of Lies, the first book in the Roosevelt Files. I'm going to try to go traditionally published with this book, but I am showing the zero drafts on Patreon and Substack. I am doing the same thing. So if you really want to support the channel and help us out, remember you can subscribe to Patreon and or Substack. They are identical. It's just some people like Patreon over them. Other than that, remember to bloop that beard and bloop that like button. Other than that, what do we got? Hey, Ro, welcome back. What we got? Got the first 3 working for me already. Now I need to get better at writing. Hey, writing is something that you got to work at, and you're going to get there. Honestly, SB, you're doing great. You're evolving. You're working on it. You know I wouldn't lie to you about that. A pair of blinkers. Buy tons of stuff from Thomas. He enjoys eating food. That is true. I do enjoy eating food. Do you write your books in order? Yes. Yes, I do. However, I do expansive outlines. So a lot of the times for the epic fantasy, Death of a King was originally supposed to be one large book. The series, the first series of the Maven Wars saga. And while I was establishing the outline, I realized to myself it was probably 3 books. And then I was like, wait a minute, it might be 4. And then I realized, no, it's 5 books. So I took the original outline and I just zoomed in and I focused specific parts of the narrative into their own sections. So that is why the epic fantasy feels a little bit more chronologically sound, is because it was one book and then I expanded the narratives to explore other elements that were very, very important to me. But with that said, yes, I like to write them in order. It's just something I enjoy doing. I like to see things evolve. I like to play with ideas. That's a great question. Thomas, stuff needs homes. Yes, it does. It always needs homes. Yeah. It'll be once I release. Oh, by the way, tomorrow is my 4-year anniversary on YouTube. There will be a video that pops up at 1 o'clock. that is pre-recorded. But yeah, I've been doing this for 4 years now, so that's pretty exciting. But I will still be doing my live at 2 o'clock. To write a book with me. Bloop bloop. You're the best around. Thank you for hitting that like. You're the best. Pizza, the only food. Pizza is the only food, and I'm having pizza tonight with pepperoni. The milkshakes make me. The milkshake had me laughing. My friend was like, he was reading it, and because it starts off with like, oh my god, did his mother give him bad advice? And then like the joke is the reveal, and he's like, that is so funny. He couldn't stop. He called me up laughing. I was like, what? He's like, the milkshakes, the milkshake. I don't know. Are you enjoying Not Great? Does he feel fun? Are you enjoying? Like, I think Not Great is working out. I also like their banter personally, but I wrote it. I have bias. Don't worry, SB. You'll likely get it all down sooner than I. Yeah, but you could do it, my friend. You could do it. You could do it, my friend. I don't look a day older than 48. Do I look 48? I mean, I'm definitely I'm 20 days old. No, what am I? I don't know how old I am. What is this? 30. That's 20. 24, 5, 6. Do I look 26 days older than 48? M. All right. Oh, the poll. Let's do it. Let's get into the poll. All right. If you could have it today, what would help improve your life? So we have a two-way tie, so that's fun. Oh, we got some thoughts? I have faith in us both, bro. I have faith in you both, too. Not Great is not so bad. Not Great is right. He's fun, right? He's got a good personality. I'm loving Not Great. Not great, even. More or less not great. I'm so glad that this live stream exists, because more or less not great would not exist if it wasn't for you amazing people. And I'm just so glad I was able to get him in. And I'm glad he doesn't come off as a joke. Like, I'm glad I'm trying to take it as seriously as possible. And if you just say his name, like, not great, then it's good. It works. And he's a Velas. So, like, the weird name would be, I'm so glad that he exists. All right, let's get into it. Last place, we have taking time to analyze narratives, 17%. Remember, there are no wrong answers, so feel free. Oh, by the way, to the audience, you were saying earlier, what one did you think I wanted that I would pick? What one do you think I would pick? Because you guys were saying, I think you were saying more free time for focus practice. That is not the one I would pick, believe it or not. It is actually taking time to analyze narratives. That is my choice. I would definitely analyze narratives. 17%. The reason is because even in music, when I was starting with music, my grandfather was a musician, my father was a musician, my brother was a musician, my uncles, right? A lot of musicians in my life. My aunts were all musicians. Of course there are wrong answers. What's the point if I can't win? Emma, you win just for existing, okay, Miyakara? All right. I choose lessons and teaches. That's a great choice. It's the taking part, Emma. It's the taking part. Taking. So, again, with my family, when it came to music, they were like, look, you could learn how to play the guitar, and then you could just learn songs and just be someone who plays the instrument. But what you should really be doing is analyzing theory. You should be analyzing what is happening. Why are they choosing, D, G, A or E, G, C, right? Like, why are they doing that? What is the purpose of a 1-3-6 or a 1-5, a 1-3-5 or a 1-4-6, right? Like, what is the point of doing that? And I have carried that mentality into everything I've done, from comedy to acting to writing, whatever it was. I want to learn how to write, but I also want to understand why I'm able to make those choices so I can make those choices. It's the same thing with drawing. There was a difference between just drawing and tracing characters versus let me work on eyes, let me work on hands, let me work on legs. what are the options I have here, right? So when it comes to writing, I do believe taking the time to analyze narrative is very important because it teaches you movement and flow and how to connect things. So I'm very much pro that. Uh, Regular feedback from other authors and more free time for focused practice is at 25%. This is tied for second. Regular feedback is fantastic. If you can build your community, like I love that I can give some of the audience here feedback. Like I love that you reach out to me and you trust me not only to give you honest opinions, but that you trust my know-how. And remember, I'm just one opinion. I recommend getting more than one. But you also honor me with getting a look at your stuff before it's polished. And because the rawness is really where you're working the story. The polished stuff, that's after you do the work. That's, like it's going to be good if it's polished because you wouldn't polish it until it was ready. So it's really nice to see the rawness because you could see where it's going and what's there to work. So I definitely believe people should have their circle of friends who are indeed other authors and writers, just so you can have that kind of feedback. More free time for focused practice. I was saying this the other day. Did I do it on a reel, like a quick 3-minute reel? Believe it or not, if like I'm from Brooklyn, right? So if I was on the train, one thing I would do is I would just practice writing on my phone, whether it's a line or an idea, and I wouldn't really be writing my books or my screenplays. What I would be doing is I'd be practicing like styles. I'd be practicing immersion. I'd be practicing dialogue. I would create a conversation in my head and like how would it go back and forth? I would start with 2 characters. Then I would take that same scene and I would move it. I would add a character. I would insert a character. And now how does that change the dialogue? How does it change the movement? If you're on break, even writing one line of dialogue or writing, a call and response, like a blah, 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 like those 2 things, that's practice. You don't always have to practice for hours or minutes. You can just practice for a line. If you get an idea for a description, just write the description down. Because when you're writing your book, when you're on your first, second, or third draft, you're writing in the presence of that movement, of what is happening. So practicing doesn't necessarily, like you're not going to write a line and be like, oh, I'll use that line again, because that line may never work for what you're writing. But practicing allows you to have that intuition. So while you're writing, you can see how to move the description, see how characters feel and things. So that's always important. It's always important. What are we going to do? I took a writing class once and it wasn't what I expected. Was it what was it? And were you happy or unhappy with it? Participation is the prize. Lame. I mean, sometimes participation is the reward, if you know what I mean. Like especially if 2 people are really working at it and getting deep into whatever it is you're doing, whatever the game is, Parcheesi, checkers, twister, whatever the case is, sometimes participation is the prize. Practice was my second choice. Practice is a great second choice. Yeah, it's my gammy leg. Ups me up. See that? I used a different word. All right. By the way, massage your leg, buddy. Okay. Finally, number 1, taking classes and writing coaches. I agree with this, man. Taking classes, writing coaches, very important, very important. I do believe analyzing is a strong veteran move. So as you learn and start understanding craft, taking that knowledge and trying to apply it to already done work so you can see how it's unfolding and how to break it up, because that allows you to also analyze your own work. Because there's a difference between I'm reading my work versus what are you looking for? Right? Like line editors, when we look at a line, we're not just reading it and be like, does that sound good? We're trying real editing. You're asking questions. You know what I'm saying? So it's something to think about. But taking classes, writing coaches, absolutely. I got to get a new chair, I think. What is this? Parcheesi. I love Parcheesi. Unhappy, it was geared more towards writing. Oh, okay. I love poems, but yes, if you go in there with the expectation of how do I write or learning how to write, and they're like, here, green eggs and ham. All right. So if there had to be a best one, like if someone wouldn't message you if there wasn't, for example, oh, the best one, in my opinion, would be taking time to analyze narratives. However, the second one would be taking classes or writing coaches. Third for me would be focused practice. And fourth for me would be authors. The reason regular feedback from other authors is last for me is not because it's the least valued. It's I want to have the skills to approach other authors with. Not that I have to be good, great, or the best, but that I have to at least have control over what it is I'm writing. And ultimately, at that point, now I need feedback to really help me. Though it doesn't hurt to have feedback while you're still developing your skills. And that's why I said you don't necessarily have to be best, great, or perfect. Everyone in my writing class is writing something different. Oh, you won? Hey, look at that. Taking time to analyze narratives. Woohoo! All right, well, you get an applause. You get an applause. Let's do it. Okay. Yeah. Oh my God. Is it the dance or the win or the one? I don't know. I took part. Wait, are you saying only 2 people voted for taking time to analyze the thing? Yay for Emma. Oh, we got to end the poll. End the poll. There we go. There we go, my friends. There we go. There we go. All right. Let's see. Answering audience questions. Does anyone have any questions? Yay for Emma. That's great for you, Em. Not everyone could be a winner. That's not true. That's not true. My father used to say, look, second place is great for last place. And I'd be like, what? Like when I was younger. He goes, if you didn't win, you last. And I go, but second place. He goes, second place is last place. Are you saying I should always win? No. But don't inflate it. You lost. And I'd be like, yeah, but I tried. He goes, trying great. Try and get you to the game. But, you gotta get that first place. I go, do you always have to win, though? He goes, no, losing's more important than winning. I go, why? He goes, well, humility. You learn more when you lose. You learn how to adjust and change. Nothing like getting shot at to get you to figure out how to duck, roll, and dive. I go, Father, I am not in Vietnam. He goes, yeah, but, I did win Vietnam. I got home. And I'm like, you got blown up. I adapted. Okay. Yay for Emma. That's great for I'm a winner. You are a winner. Second place is first loser. Emma automatically gets the rad badge. Boom, 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 boom. I ain't coolin', and I ain't fooling. Second place is first loses, so I'm happy to say I'm a winner too. I've started first edit on. Ooh. Boom, 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 bam, 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 bam. I love it. Congratulations. And fiddling around with the next book. Ooh, that gets another one. Woohoo! I love it. Hey, Afghani, I don't know if you're still here or not, but you asked me a question. You said, do I write them in order? Do you write your books in order? But I think you write, don't you write like standalone short stories? I like to write series. Like I like that. Though to be fair, the Roosevelt Files is going to be more anthology. So it's not necessarily like, a saga or a series in that sense, but it is an anthology of crimes. But I am going to try to write it in age order, like, he continuously get older, but I'm not afraid, nor am I against writing a book that takes place between other books. So if I like the first 3 books, I already know what I'm writing. I already have them planned out. But like the 4th book, it wouldn't, why couldn't I go back? Because I know the second book is not going to take place directly after the first book ends. It's going to take, I might write it like a year or 2 in from that moment. The 3rd book, I might write it where it's like maybe 5 years in, or maybe whatever. Like I want to have space in between everything. Way to go, Lynn. Yay! The novel I wrote in order, but I usually write out of order. Wait, are you asking, do I write the book itself in order, like chapter 1 to the last chapter? Or are you asking, do I write my books in order? When I'm writing a book, I do write it in order. It's still part of the process for me. And the reason I do that is because my music background and screenwriting. And screenwriting, I was taught to basically just write it and get it out. When I write songs, I just write the song to the end. Then I go back and I work and I keep working it. With the book, it's the same thing. I'll write the 0 draft chapters. Well, I'll write the short form outline all the way down. Now, I might know what the beginning and end may look like, so I'll write the beginning and end to be like, I have my start, I have my end. But those can change, as can anything else. My short form outline, I'll write in order. My extended outline, I write in order. And then my chapters, I'll do the 0 draft, first chapter, all the way to the end. And then I go back to the beginning, I take notes, and then I start reworking. Well, I let the alpha readers read after that. And then I'll start writing the first draft. So 0 draft chapters might expand to 2 or 3 chapters, just like we're doing with the sci-fi. But I just like to get to the end so I can develop the characters and the world and the style in which I'm writing for that book to kind of evolve over the course. And then by the time I get to the end, I can make a lot of choices. So even at the end of my first draft, I can make choices on who these characters are. I can solidify positions. I can solidify their arcs. I can see the stuff that I need to go back. If I jump around and I write like chapter 5 first, and then chapter 1, and then chapter 8, and then chapter 20, it's hard for me to maintain a connectivity to it, so I try not to jump around. That doesn't mean that during brainstorming, I don't write or work out ideas for random scenes, but those scenes don't always end up identical in the book, nor do all the scenes end up in the book, because they help me develop the story, and it's less about the story. Because I try to follow the narrative. I serve the narrative over, like, I need this one cool thing to happen, because that one cool thing might not make sense in the grand scheme of things once I put the work in. Yeah, chapter 1, then 2, etc. Yeah. I try to do it in order, and more often than not, I am doing it in order. I would often have a scene play in my head, so I'll sit down and write it instead of waiting until I get there. Again, that's fine. Like, I do that in my brainstorming, but I won't do that once I sit down to get the book out. Once brainstorming's done, my process becomes very straightforward. I am malleable. I'm happy to change things. I'm not glued or married to ideas. But I let the narrative serve me. I let the narrative lead to the change and not necessarily to change itself. By the way, Lenny, I am working on a Russian-themed song currently. It reminds me of you because of the Eastern European accent and vampire stuff. I also think of you when something sounds like Newman. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Writing out of order is a good way to get around writer's block. I agree with that when it comes to the brainstorming. The only reason I have built the habit of writing straight through, only because, once you start getting paid for writing, like especially a screenplay, you can't just show up with a scene here and there. They want to see at least a crappy full version of the script. So it was just something that I became in tune to. When I first started writing, it was, I'd write a scene here, I'd write a scene there. That's the only reason I write through. There's nothing wrong with doing block writing, which is sort of what you're talking about, where you just write a scene here, a scene there, a scene. There's nothing wrong with that, Zach. So if that's working for you, stay with it, buddy. So do 1 sentence per PP to get past the energy thing I'm dealing with. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So in writing, if you just basically, again, if you look at Hunger Games, the reason I use Hunger Games is because it's literally 27 chapters long, and each chapter is solely dedicated to a plot point. So plot point 1, The Ordinary World, is Katniss home with her family. That's all you got to write is that sentence. What does that mean? It means that you have to write a chapter or many chapters to explore whatever it is that means. What is home and what are the people around her? If you could do it in a chapter, great. If you need more chapters, fine. You're writing fantasy and you need to explore magic? All right. First thing is Katniss home dealing with magic. So maybe you have 3 or 4 chapters to do that, whatever the case is. But plot points, Katniss home with her family. Plot point 2 is the reaping. I volunteer for tribute. Simple line. Third thing is Katniss says goodbye to family. Fourth line, Katniss on train heading to capital. The emotional depth of those lines, that you worry about later. You just want to look at the plot. Story is the emotional depth. The plot is, I need the narrative to connect each other. Again, if plot point 1 is Katniss home with family, and then plot point 2 is Katniss at the games, clearly, an exaggerated example, we have missed some narrative beats. How did she get to the game? What is the game? Why is she at the game? Now, if it's Katniss home, Katniss volunteers for tribute, and then the third one is Katniss is picking berries at the games, we then, again, are missing context. So that's why writing a simple sentence out helps you look at the narrative plot-wise to see if you're connecting to logical narrative movement. I'll be talking about that more on Thursday when I release the 4th video in the How to Write a Narrative series. More importantly, the videos will be less than 90 minutes. The third video in the series was the longest because it had the most information, but they're going to be quicker. All right. Would I need a PP for each MC? Yes, actually. Like PP1 for my story would be Madison working on a new exhibit. Yes. So when you're looking at a character arc, the arc moves through all 27 plot points. But again, you might see plot point 1 established in 1 sentence. I'm here for the new job. And then the rest of the scene takes place with other things going on, and you kind of establish it. By the middle of the I use the example of I'm a writing teacher in a class. That is the setup up to the chapter 1. And while I'm teaching the class, somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And then I go talk to them. Your father just passed away. The hospital called here looking for you. That's plot point 2 in the same chapter. Then I go, all right. And then I go downstairs to talk to the doctor. That's plot point 3. I could technically hang up the phone and in the same chapter start crying and then thinking about what I have to do to take care of the funeral arrangements. And that's technically plot point 4. So I did 4 plot points in 1 chapter. So you could look at the main central conflict the same way, or you could look at sub arcs or subplots like that. You don't necessarily need to write full chapters for sub characters. I personally like writing full chapters for central conflict story, at minimum a full chapter. But to answer your question, yes, you just want to see the rhythm of that narrative so everything connects. You want to set it up, you want to challenge it, you want, right? To be fair though, every character should technically have like a main arc, and then like little things. I wouldn't really put a lot of weight, like, do they like soda or not? Like, that is technically an arc. Right? Like someone gives them soda, they're like, oh, this is disgusting, and then by the end of the book they're like, I love soda. Like, technically that's an arc, and technically you need 27 plot points. But what I would do is I'd focus on their main story, like the thing that is, and by the way, it still works with a flat arc too. The world around them will change, like in Shakespeare, in Sherlock Holmes. I hope that answers your question, Diana. And remember, you could always email me questions too. I'm always having an answer. Cool. Oh, with the Roman. Yeah, that's cool. I love that he's thinking of you. I've just started the single word PP listing, and home is the first one. See? Home. Because all that means is when you work on the chapters for plot point 1, you need to establish the home. In Hunger Games, it's Katniss and Katniss home with her family, or Katniss with her family, whatever the case is. And what does that mean? It means you have to establish her world. What does home look like to her? What are we learning about it? It does. I'll probably think of something else to ask later after my nap. I'm always around. If I don't get right back to you, it's because I'm busy, but I will happily get to you. Trust me. If anyone else has questions about writing, I'm a developmental editor and a writing teacher. It's free advice. Throw it at me. If you have questions about your writing process, your book, writing terminology in general, feel free to ask me. I'm choking. I'm choking. All right. Oh, man. Hey. Ooh, God. Ooh, God. What we got? What we got? Katniss thinks of ugly cat. Well, no, see, that wouldn't be a plot point. I mean, actually, it would be. It could be. It could be if the story was directly connected to the cats. That's the other thing. You want your plot points to connect to the, especially for the central. By the way, focus on central conflict first. Focus on the main story, and then you can worry about the other characters. But when you're working on narratives, you don't want to just randomly make it about something else. So again, if we use if it's Katniss home with her family, and then plot point 2 is Katniss is thinks of ugly cats, that means that Act 3 has to qualify, explore, or expand, and ultimately resolve she thinks cats are ugly. Which means in Act 3, because you made the... Because remember, I don't know if you know this, but the inciting incident is a mirror reflection of the Act 3 climax. So whatever the central conflict... Whatever the inciting incident is in plot point 2, Katniss volunteers for tribute, must directly be connected to the climax. In this case, she is at the Capitol changing the system because she has just won with Peter. All right. So you have to remember that has to connect. I mean, because that reminds her of home. Yeah, but that's not the plot point. Plot point 1 is the ordinary world. So what if it's Katniss home? How do we disrupt that? So plot point 2 can't be thinks of ugly cats, unless thinks of ugly cats becomes the emotional through line that is finalized and resolved in Act 3's climax, where she's like, you know what, cats are not ugly, or cats are, like, she's either cats are ugly or cats are not ugly. I think of catnip. So you have to think of the plot points and what they're trying to establish. In this case, ordinary world, inciting incident, fallout to whatever the inciting incident is, long-term impact, basically reflection on what's to come. Then it's taking action to directly embrace, fix, or solve the inciting incident or the results of the inciting incident. Then it's the consequences of taking that action. Then there's pressure because you are basically getting into the threshold of no return. Then it's a twist or a plot pinch or a pinch, whatever. And then there's the push into Act 2, etc., etc., etc. Sorry, dude, I was just goofing off. Oh, yeah, but again, I love the goof off because it allows for an opportunity for me to explore that lesson a little bit more. Because at the end of the day, you know, somebody might read that and be like, oh, I could do that. But in reality, if you're just writing a single sentence for each plot point, every sentence has to be connected directly to that plot point. So it makes sense. My cat wants catnip now, and he's really mad we won't give it. My cat had a stare over a week ago, and she's well chilled and doesn't need cat. Oh, nice. Now, steroid. Does that help the cats? Because, you know, if it helps cats, I may look into that for my cat. Especially if it calms her down a little bit. Because sometimes she gets into that running around thing. All right, anyway. I do. Let me show you something. See, yeah, just kind of like lean into that a little bit. Mister, my cat just got fed. I call those zombies. Oh, the zombie. Zomber. Oh, zoomies. Dyslexia. All right. So again, to kind of like lean into the plot point thing, each one has a specific purpose. So don't dare stop Resumes. Listen, how can I stop Resumes? I'd have to do something horrible, and I couldn't do it. I love animals too much. Since I woke up late today, I put some treats on the bottom. Ooh, sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. I want some treats. Anyway, kind of seeding into, she was Dander. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Thomas, have you checked out the new Darth Maul? Not yet, Ro, but I definitely have it on my list. Don't spoil it. I want to check it out. All right, so real quick, that's the fella. So as you can see, each plot point has a very specific element to it. It has to do a very specific thing. So when you think of Katniss home with her family introduces the whole world. This is before the disruption of the inciting incident. I volunteer for tribute. And then she has to say goodbye to everyone because that's a direct fallout to what has happened with the inciting incident. Now, the reflection and choice would be her on the train heading to and getting to the capital. This is the part of the conversation where she basically is told, you're going to die. Everybody enters and only one person leaves. And it's very hard. So sets the stakes. And she has to either embrace the coming games, try to fix the issue so she could go home. By the way, she could reject it too. She could run away. She could escape the train. You know what I'm saying? But Katniss embraces what's coming. Action is they get there and they parade her. The action doesn't have to be against what she's doing. She's taking action to accept. So in this case, for action, Katniss does the parade. And then she hears what's happening with the narrative to be lovers. And she leans in and kisses Petra on whatchamacallit, on the cheek. Not the lips. That comes later. The consequence to that is that she has to deal with the fallout or the consequences there's like a dinner afterwards as everybody gets together. Plot point 7 in the Hunger Games is she begins training for the games. The pressure is, am I good enough? Will I survive? Do I have the skills? And then she's seeing everyone else around her killing it. So the line for that would be, prepares for the games and starts training. All right. And then ultimately, the plot twist here is that she scores an 11. And the capital people don't really care because they're not paying attention to her. So then she shoots the apple, and then they're like, oh, she might be somebody to pay attention to. Which leads us into the push, this is where Peter says, hey, I vow to help her. And therefore, it's the first time we have a team. And it's a team of lovers. But anyway, so every plot point kind of does that. So you have to think about that when you're working on that single line thing. I've only seen the first 2 episodes myself. Oh, of Darth Maul. Staking. Oh, that's where your character gets and then comes back to life. Is it any good, Ro? I liked it so far. Reminds me of Clone. Oh, well, that's good. That's good. Clone Wars is fantastic. The animated thing. In your experience, what is the single biggest mistake first-time novelists make that kills the book before it is finished, and how do they... First of all, excellent question. Second of all, excellent question. All right, so again, in my experience as a developmental editor, what is the single biggest mistake first-time novelists make that kills the book before it is finished? A lot of times what is happening is a first-time novelist is just trying to tell an idea. They are not writing with purpose. In their mind, they're like, oh, I have an idea. I want these things to happen. And it's just a collection of things happening, but nothing is happening. First-time writers rarely have story. They remove the emotional experiences and choices of their characters. And instead, they allow their characters to do things because the plot dictates it must happen. This character fights because the plot needs them to fight, so I can have this really cool scene. And then I'm going to have this character die. And then, of course, I need these characters to kiss, so I'm going to manifest the kiss, right? They're just making things happen, and they're taking out the agency or the development of a character. And yes, they might not necessarily know that it's missing. They might believe they are doing it, but it is the one thing that stands out the most when finding a new author. They like, for example, a description becomes a description because that's what they want to write. And it's not filtered through the character. It's not filtered through the emotional experience of how they are personally immersed and the choices of what it is they are experiencing. They are just writing pretty, or, hey, look at how well I can write a description. So yes, there might be like, oh, but it's immersive. So the simple answer is they write things happening, but they forget to make it about characters. Even in a plot-driven narrative like a Sherlock Holmes, character choices and experiences still exist. Sherlock is choosing things on purpose because of who they are. They forget who the characters are, or don't know who they are, and they just write a series of things happening. To best avoid it, give your characters positions. More importantly, if A must happen, if the plot dictates that a character must fight another character, a really easy way to show character is they have to fight them. And you know in this narrative they will fight them. But what do they do to avoid fighting them? Because now that creates story. It creates conflict. The conflict isn't the fight. It may look like it, but the conflict is the hesitation. Because now we're watching who the character is. What do they do? What are the extremes they go to avoid that fight? Do they try to go politically? Do they try to get people involved? Do they try to make an amends? Do they try to run away? Whatever the case is. So to fix it, the best way to avoid writing a quote-unquote narrative that is only things happening, think about your characters' positions, what they believe. That's a position. What they believe and how much they believe or don't believe in something, right? You start there. And then whenever they are in a position to make a choice against what must happen no matter what. Again, a character must fight, and they will fight, and they will win, but they don't know they're going to win. How can you challenge that? If you're writing a romance and it's a meet cute, you know they're going to meet, but make it difficult to meet. Have obstacles. Not that you have to do that all the time, but that gives characters a chance to make choices to fix problems within scenes, within chapters, so forth and so forth. So that is a way to do it. And that's a fantastic question. I'm gonna think it was. That was a great question. Love Clone Wars. Yeah, that was a good show. That was a real good show. The sound effects on the show are awesome. Oh, on Maul. I like that. I was watching some behind the scenes stuff. They talk about how they use a lightsaber sound, but then like Maul, the actor who plays Maul, very good actor, he does scream. He like does a scream behind it, so it's also like a scream. They really stand down. I usually never pay attention to that. Sound design is so important in a show or a film. Did you actually skip my question, or am I not listening well? Maybe I didn't. Oh, here we go. When you did I miss? What did I miss? I'm so sorry, Sean. I did not avoid, skip, or ignore your question. I actually did not see it, so I'm sorry about that. When you have a group of protagonists and they get split up, do they each have their own PP arcs at the point where they get... Well, that's a good question. So, to be fair, the plot points, the narrative plot points of the 27 plot point island happens invisibly. It's constantly in motion, okay? However, in every scene and every chapter, there should be two things happening. The central conflict, the main important conflict, should constantly be moving through every scene and chapter. Doesn't always. You could have some character chapters. But at minimum, there should be at least the central conflict moving and or another character arc. Now, best case scenario, the central conflict is moving forward in every scene or chapter, or every chapter, and then scenes you could play with other movements. But then other arcs are playing around. As far as the protagonist and the group of characters splitting up, it's not that they have their own PP arcs because they split up. It's that their PP arcs are still in motion, whether they split up or not. So I think that's the best way to explain that answer. Um, however, however, not all characters need to be at the same plot point at the same time. So the central conflict could be on, let's say, plot point 5, and a minor arc, a sub arc for another character is about their bravery. Okay, and while the main narrative is in plot point 5, this character might be on plot point 2, and they get into a situation where they realize they are not brave. So their plot point 1 would be them basically going, this will be nothing, I'm not afraid of soldiers. And then in the main narrative, when you're dealing with, let's say, the first action to fight, that character deals with a reality check. They are frightened. So the fallout is maybe they hide it, and they're found hiding on the battlefield, okay, after after the fight. So they don't all have to be aligned, but they have to all be moving at some point or another. Okay. I hope that answers your question, and I'm sorry that I missed that. Good question. Is this where the short form outline comes in at the start? Yes. So again, the short form outline is basically this, but one line for each plot point. So plot point 1 be Katniss at home. Plot point 2 is Katniss volunteers for tribute, or you could write the reaping. Plot point 3 is she says goodbye to her family. Plot point 4 is the train ride to the Capitol. Plot point 5 is the parade. Plot point 6, right? So you don't have to write the emotional value of that plot point, because that's story. You work that out on the pages in your extended outline. But ultimately, the zero draft is just a single line that represents what plot point of the central conflict must move forward. Now, if we were going to use other characters, Peeta technically starts out in plot point 4, I think, or plot point 5. Like, his thing really starts out. Right? We learn who Peeta is, but his plot points move a lot quicker because it's Peter. I like this girl. I'm gonna say that I love her. Like that's you know what I'm saying? Like his plot points are moving a little quicker within the group. Hope that answers your question. I'm missing here. Domestic cat and ancestors hunted at night. That's why cats run around at night. Oh, that's interesting. Domestic cat ancestors hunted at. Oh yeah, well they can. Yeah, they have. There's a coating behind their retinas, which is why we see their eyes glowing sometimes. Because whatever little bit of light comes in, it actually passes their iris, goes into that chemical, and then actually reflects out, and that's what makes it glow, but also help them see at night. Interesting. Thomas has taught me that lesson a lot. Very guilty of a series of events happening without context. You know, Ro, that's a great lesson to learn, though, for writers. I mean, most writers, they don't necessarily think about cause and effect. They just think of things happening. Oh, you know, it'd be cool, or I just want this to happen. But it's not like they think they're connecting ideas. But as you develop your skill as a writer, this is for everybody. Part of your tool set is the analytical element. How am I missing context? How do we go from here to here? Like, we don't need to see Katniss go to the train. We just need her on the train because she already said goodbye to everybody at the territory. But we do need to see her say goodbye because that's the fallout. It's the emotional fallout. And to be fair, real quick, if you're looking at this, every third plot point in a section, so plot point 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, and 27, must have an emotional, physical, spiritual, or mental fallout. It could have one of those, it could have all of them, it could have 2, it could have 3, but it must allow characters to explore an emotional, physical, mental, or spiritual fallout, or consequence, or push, or just juxtaposition, or reversal. They must be experiencing something based on the second plot point within that section. Because the second plot point is an action or a reveal. Okay? Inciting incident, changes, it's an action that directly changes the trajectory of the narrative. Action is to fix the problem created by the inciting incident, or they embrace it, or they try to solve it. Plot twist or pinch adds stakes. Fun and games, we go deeper into characters. Midpoint conflict, literally the truth of the lie is revealed because of taking action or action being taken. Trials and tests, taking action, right? So, however, every first plot point, in this case 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, always set up the context of that section. All right? That's just something to think about. I have a million videos on this, and it's definitely something to look at for sure. All right. No worries. You know I'm here for you, buddy. PP arcs. I mean, they are PP arcs. Take them. Cool, thank you. I'll watch that again later. Hey, anytime, man. And you know you can reach out and ask me questions. Do we need PP? Oh, this is a great question. You don't need it, but it doesn't hurt. And again, by the way, that arc that the villain has might not be visible on the page, but the protagonist will feel the antagonistic results influencing their story. So the villain, which isn't always the antagonist, a villain could be the protagonist if it's their story, but if the antagonist is doing things to develop their arc, even though we don't see it on the page, how does it influence the world of the protagonist? So that's something to think about. But you can, especially if we are following the villain or the antagonist. Like, for example, Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister have arcs. They are the antagonistic forces. Clearly, they push Bran, even though that's not the inciting incident, but they do push Bran out the window. That, by the way, is Bran's inciting incident, okay? All right, now, to be fair, we may never see Cersei or Jaime, and that would be fine too, because that would be the story you're telling. But we would still be influenced by their... Oh, I don't want to give away I don't want to spoil it, but they have something going on that does influence the rest of the story, and it should. So I hope that answers your question. I personally like giving antagonistic forces arcs. So in Death of a King, Liamdor, Vigum, Bulgarian, kinda. Devious's internal is an antagonistic force, right? And then there's but I don't give it. There's no arc to Maven because that's not what the first book is about, right? So we don't see him, so I don't have to worry about that. But I know what Maven is doing, and that is influencing the chapters. That is influencing the story. But I don't need to write that out, if that makes sense. That's helpful, pal. Anytime. It's not running, it's zooming. I was told the domestic see-through glass from the outside. Oh, that's interesting. I'll definitely look into that. Bran was really annoying to be... Yes, and in the show, way annoying. Also, he got really tall really quick, and that was they didn't know what to do with that. I haven't figured out who the villain is yet. I just know he's a he and a serial killer. If I may, Diana, just for practicality, for narrative writing, consider the serial killer the antagonistic force and not necessarily the villain. A villain specifically serves a different purpose and isn't always the antagonistic force. But if the villain is a protagonist that you get to see and you have a POV on it, I definitely recommend giving that character their own arc. At least one arc. And for everyone out there, remember, believe it or not, you don't have to get this crazy with it, but it is something to think about. If I am a character in the book and I have a friendship or a relationship with another character, that automatically creates an arc. It could be a flat arc, though. The friendship stays the friendship, right? But it is an interesting opportunity to see, how do I challenge that friendship? You don't have to, but that friendship is technically an arc that is developed or created. Whether it's flat or not, it could be dynamic. They could end up not being friends, or it could be a misunderstanding, or they can end up being lovers, whatever. But if it's a flat arc, it's still an arc. They are best friends. They help one another. They're ride or die, and they're there till the end. Now, if one of the friends dies, technically, that's the resolution to the arc. So, bear in mind, every element that a character develops an interest to or an adversity to is an arc. If a character is brave, and that's part of their personality, and you want to showcase it, that technically can be an arc. Do they maintain their bravery? Is their bravery challenged? Does their bravery break? How does their bravery help them? Even though that might not be the central conflict, every character has multiple arcs. Whether you go deep into it or not, that's up to you. But it is something to think about. It is an interesting opportunity, if that makes sense. You know, like I have a few characters in Death of a few characters. But originally, they didn't all have defined arcs. So as I developed each draft, and as I got responses, and as I asked questions, the zero draft version of Death of a King is almost like you can't even compare it to the third draft. Characters have positions, characters fight back against things, characters take stances, characters change and evolve. There's actually this won't give anything away because I'm not going to say who it is, but there are two characters in the book that have an emotional journey that every alpha reader that has read it so far A, didn't see it coming but was so glad it happened, and B, said that it definitely it was needed. So you have to think of those opportunities. A relationship, whether friend, parent, siblings, lovers, those are arcs. They could be flat or dynamic. It's something to think about. It's an opportunity. The way a character feels, a character learning magic is an arc. It may not be the central arc, but it is an arc. Learning a weapon, learning to survive, dealing with grief. These are all arcs, but they don't necessarily have to be the central arc. You know, like Hunger Games, the central arc is a teenager must fight in the Hunger Games. That's literally, it's before the Hunger Games, and she wins or lose the Hunger Games. But there are a ton of other arcs in there. There's the love relationship between her and Peeta. There's her relationship between her and her family, which drives her because when she sees Rue reminds her of her younger sister. It's connecting the arc, right? It's not a dynamic arc, but it is an influential arc. Her relationship with the Capitol, her relationship with the other contestants, those are technically arc. Her relationship with her mentor, even though you can consider his relationship with her the arc because he actually grows because of their relationship. My point is, you can find many, many, many arcs that all follow the 27 plot point, but they don't have to be extremely detailed, and you don't have to spend pages and pages on them. But they are things to think about just to add texture and flavor and stuff like that. Isn't what happened to Rue a foreshadowing to what happens? Oh! Spoiler alert! I do not know, actually. I only read the first book as part of an exercise to do research for this. And I've seen only the first two movies under the rest. But they are... It is an excellent book to read to understand the 27 plot point, just to kind of see the movement of it. The movie, I'm not too sure. I guess every narrative does the 27 plot point, whether they choose to or not. It's there. But Hunger Games is pretty linear. The only thing that's really hard about the movie and the book is like she's always in the trees. Like she just sits in the trees all the time. I'm not saying the book is bad. I'm just like, can we not be in the trees today? I freaking hate grocery shopping. I love eating though, so it's a necessary evil. Yes. Also, yes, I agree. Ro, it's Ro, not Rue. Oh, sorry, Ro, sorry. I've read all the books and watched all the movies. It was a mom-daughter event with my mother. Well, that's beautiful. Whether the movies are and the books are interesting, that part I love. I love that part. That part is. Oh, it's 2 hours. We're in. We made it. We made it to 2 hours. All right, everyone. I'm buying myself. Sean, you don't buy us cookies? Jesus. Que fa? Sta zita. Aspetta. All right, everybody. We did great today. I really hope you're enjoying this series where I break down scripts and chapters. If this is definitely something you want me to keep doing, just let me know in the comments below. Share this video if it really connected with you. If you felt you learned something, it really does help the channel. It helps me continue to grow. And like I've been saying, you know, I don't really like doing this part of it, but you know, the reality is, whether you're watching this or somebody else watches it, I kind of have to bring awareness to it. But the reality is the YouTube membership, the Patreon, and the Substack all help. Even share, just if you don't want to subscribe, sharing the videos to get more views and to get more subscribers to here helps finance this channel. Remember, I am monetized, so the AdSense, watching the ads and just letting them play, that helps this channel pay for itself. This is all I do. I write, I develop, edit, and I teach writing. So, you know, I am semi-retired, and this is really something I love to do. And the more we grow and the more it helps finance that adventure, the more I can do with this, the more I can give back, the more free resources I can develop. All right, everybody. What do we got here? What do we got? Oh, there's more. There's more. Chocolate chip. I made it to 2 p.m. my time. I'm so sorry. That's my throat. It's 2 p.m. Oh yeah, because you're 3 hours back, right? Well, go take your nap, my friend. You take your nap. We're gonna miss you, but I'm about to jump. I'm about to go. You are so welcome, my friend. So you want Katniss to put herself in more danger just so you don't have to read about trees? Monster. Yes. I must say technology is cool, and I can be here with you all while shopping. I mean, that is fantastic. Do you have an earpiece in, or do people hear me just saying random stuff like peanuts? All right. Ginger nuts. Are we meeting as usual? SB, would it be okay if we met tomorrow night on Sunday? My throat is actually going. I don't know. That's why I keep in. And I could use the break, because after this I think I'm going to relax a little bit. But it would mean a lot to me if we could go on Sunday. If you have to do tonight, I am happy to do tonight. But if we could do a switcheroo, that'd be fantastic, my friend. You know I love you. All right, I will share for sure. We need to build a transportation device. We do, because we could go and play pool together or do some bowling or something. Thank you so much, SB. You're the best around. Never gonna give you up. Yeah, you're the best around. All right, that's everything. What's going on here? I'm trying to close. I said close. All right. See you later, Ro. Thank you so much. Love the jokes. Enjoyed the music. Good stuff, sir. Switcheroo is my friend. All right. Earpiece, definitely. All right. So if I say pecan nuts, yeah. Take care, everyone. Eyes out. I'm out too. To everybody out there, thank you so much. Much love. Peace and harmony. As always, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.